Hey guys, this is a little late night something. I want to do a live that was by request. I probably will send this to my unlisted playlist. I don't think I'll make it members only, but it will go probably to the unlisted playlist. So you'll still be able to watch the playback. You'll just have to make sure that you have the link. Okay. I'm going to get right into the topic. This was a requested video, and actually, this was requested by two different people. So that's why I'm making the video. I'm going to go ahead and just share my screen and read the comments that have me making this live. So the first comment was left on a video that I made that I think you have to watch it to appreciate it. It's called "Are Black Women the Weakest Link?" I really suggest you guys go watch that video. Water 8 said, I saw a conversation last week on Lapeef Network, and the Black women were the link regarding the trans in the alphabet gang, the T in the alphabet gang. Now, I thought that this was an interesting comment that somebody left because I had a couple of women reach out to me via email. And these were the comments that they made. So one of the ladies said, I'm going to skip past this a little bit. She said, I just turned 20 and I have very different views than most of my peers. As you could imagine, with the LGBTQ and being anti-vax, as they call it, just being a whole young Black conservative, minus the coonery. Please tell me how not to care about other people's feelings and how to go about letting it be known I am not for their agendas and ideologies. If someone were to tell me my pronouns are they, them, and they want to be addressed as such, what would you do? Right? So this is a young lady in her 20s. This is a relatively young lady who is asking, like, how do you navigate the minefield of non-binary, trans, that whole thing, right? And what do you do in those situations if you don't support those lifestyles and you are faced with somebody that's asking you to call them they or them? Like, what do you do? And then I had this one was also an email, but a third person that reached out to me. And she said, so here's the thing. As a Black woman, I feel like we have the capability to understand everyone and everything. It's like we have bleeding hearts as the original mothers of everyone on planet Earth. And she said, I learned about the psyche of trans women years ago, and it caused me to feel really bad for them. I don't believe they are mostly problematic, but the problematic ones tend to be the loudest, and it just makes the community look predatory and sneaky. I don't think it's right to feel like I have to walk on eggshells or risk being called transphobic. I don't know how the bridge would be connected. Perhaps love is the answer? She said, Irene, can you do a video on how to navigate conversations with trans women? I haven't met a trans woman in real life. Their numbers are low. So maybe how to navigate trans conversations on social media. So as you guys can see from the three combination of emails and comments that were left for me, that's why I chose to make this video. I hope you guys can hear me pretty clearly. So I want to talk about this. First of all, I want to say that I do feel that Black women are the weakest link when it comes to the LGBTQ plus agenda. when it comes to dealing with trans people, specifically men that purport themselves to be women. I think Black women are a major problem in this. First of all, I have said on this channel that I think when we talk about a culture of worshiping Black men, to me, there is no higher form of Black male worship than to support a Black man who wants to be a Black woman. So many times when we talk about misogyny, so many times we talk about the term Black male worship that is directed at heterosexual men. And in that conversation, and we've seen this, especially in these social media streets, there are Black men masquerading as Black women who are epitomizing the complaints of Black women, but then are allowed to navigate in Black female spaces. And you will have Black women literally attack other Black women on behalf of these men. I think I want to address everything that everybody said. So let's start with the question that I was asked. How do you navigate conversations with trans men? Or I'm sorry, trans women. I can't get man out my mind when I think about men wanting to be women. So I will say that on this channel, I have had the same trans person come up twice, once on a panel, and I think once we might have had a one-on-one discussion, if I remember correctly. And I am just polite because I don't have a problem with people. I have a problem with transgenderism. I also recognize that trans people are severely mentally ill. So I always keep that in mind. Like at the end of the day, when I'm dealing with a trans person, specifically a man purporting to be a woman, I'm dealing with a whole man who is mentally ill. And I navigate a whole man that is mentally ill the way that any woman would navigate dealing with a man that is mentally ill, right? Put yourself in a position where you have to deal with a man with a severe mental illness that includes delusion. That is how you navigate dealing with trans people. So I'm definitely polite because I don't have a problem with the individual. I recognize it's a mental illness. Obviously, if I'm navigating around a trans person on social media, that's going to look very different than what I would do in the real world. As a woman, I am personally not going to put myself in proximity to a mentally ill man. Definitely, if there is a man that is wanting to be a woman, I'm not going to choose to put myself in proximity with them. I don't feel the need to do that. I wish they get help and the support that they need. And I don't mean surgeries and things. I mean like therapy, right? Maybe some behavioral adjustment, some medication. I wish we were doing more research to actually help these people than enable them. But I don't think that women should be placing themselves in situations with trans men. Or, I mean, well, I get the trans stuff so confused because I don't want to call them women because they're not women. So with men who believe themselves to be transgender. The reason is because there are problems that come with that. When a man believes himself to be a woman, and we sometimes see this with gay men as well, they can be violent toward women. They can be extremely violent toward women because they don't see any difference between them attacking you and two women getting into a fight. There also can be the need me personally, I don't feel comfortable with men who are not stable. Like any man that's unstable is a man that I'm personally not going to be around in the real world. So I don't think women need to navigate around trans men. I think we need to not engage or trans men who think they're women. When I say trans men, I'm thinking of men who think they are women. I know that's not proper terminology, but I just can't bring myself to call a man a woman. So I just think that women should not engage them, right? They are highly misogynistic. The idea that they should be engaged by women, I think, is problematic because we would never stand for a heterosexual man making that assertion. We would never stand for a straight man making that assertion. However, we allow homosexual men and men who want to be women to demand placement, support, and protection by women. If a heterosexual man, and that's what my video, Are Black Women the Weakest Link, was about. It was about a gay man asking for Black women to protect him, to protect homosexual men. In the same way that trans men who are transgender ask Black women to make space for, accept, and protect them. And it's interesting to me, once a man expresses no interest in women sexually, once a man expresses a desire to be a woman, it is then that women are willing to protect them the most. And I just think that it is not a woman's place to battle for men or to make space in women's areas for men or to try to navigate around mentally ill men. So that's the first thing I would say. I would be polite, but I don't think we should be engaging them. I don't think women should be supporting them, protecting them, engaging them, trying to dialogue with them. I mean, I think that a woman that wants to dialogue with a severe misogynist or a mentally ill man is a problematic woman unless you're a therapist, unless you're conducting, a session, a therapy session for them. Yeah, and that's the other question. Yes, I'm glad you brought that up. Um, because another question was, and I'll read it, that the other sister asked. She said, "What do you do if someone asks you to use their pronouns?" I agree with you. I don't use pronouns that are incorrect for people, not knowingly, right? Not intentionally. I simply use the person's name, but I'm going to be at 10,000% with you. I've been in a few situations, um, and I really shouldn't even be talking to people who are non binary or who, want improper pronouns used because I have a way of saying their name because I'm irritated about it. But nevertheless, in the few situations, I told you guys on this festival, I had to work in close proximity to somebody who wanted to be called a they, them, right? And I just called him by his name. I also called him him. Now, I'm not even going to hold you. I tried to use his name, but I would also call him him. I would call him him around him. I would call him him to everybody else. I made a point of doing it because I think I was the only person that was not placating this foolishness. To some degree, I think refusing to use their proper pronoun is enabling them as well. But I think also, if you are dealing with a person in the real world, again, if you have a man that is mentally ill, I would never advise a woman to say something to a man who is severely mentally ill that might trigger him into hurting you, whether he's wearing a dress or not. And some of these trans people, if you call them by their proper pronoun, you know, the man won't miss a beat. He'll be irritated, but he won't say anything. You have other trans people, like think about the guy in GameStop, who will go completely ballistic if they feel that you're not using a female pronoun for them. When you're choosing to use their male pronoun. So I always tell women at the end of the day, you have to remember that you are dealing with men. They might be a man in a dress, they might be a man on hormones, they might be a man taking the D, but they're still men. And I think it's important that women remember this because some women get into a delusion and start engaging these people as if they are women, you know? So I would say I would either use their name, especially in the real world. I would just use their name. I personally, in the real world, have used proper pronouns. So I've called a non binary person him that I had to work in close proximity to. Um, but I would not advise that for everybody. Socially, I was positioned in a way that the way this person and I were connected, I wasn't really concerned. But I would not advise other women do that. I would advise just use their name, not because of anything other than the fact that you're dealing with a mentally ill man. And I just don't think it's safe for a woman to put herself in a position to possibly upset a mentally ill man. Just keeping it 1,000. Um, what was the other question? The sister said, I don't think it's right. Let me share my screen. She said, I don't think it's right to feel like I have to walk on eggshells or risk being called transphobic. I think that we have to really stop worrying about being called transphobic. Sticks and stones. Words can hurt, but like at the same time, the words, you have to give them power. And I think we need to stop being afraid of being called transphobic. I mean, for a man to bully a woman by trying to hurl some sort of epithet at them is very problematic. And I feel very disturbed that there is a woman who has a fear that on behalf of a man, a grown man, she's going to be verbally berated. You have to really think about that. You have to think about Black women being in fear of being verbally berated for ticking off some guy, for not doing what some man wants her to do, for not speaking in the way or acting in the way that a man wants her to act, being verbally berated for that. That's really what the sister's asking, right? She's saying, well, if this man that wants to be a woman, if I do the wrong thing, I'm going to be verbally berated and abused. How do I navigate not getting verbally berated and abused? And this is why the co-signing of this behavior is so problematic. Because it leaves the door open for abuse of women. Again, we have so many conversations in female spaces about what heterosexual men are doing. But you know who's abusing women with anonymity? Homosexual and transgenders. They are able to practice the utmost misogyny without anybody questioning it. They are able to engage women in ways that their heterosexual counterparts could never do and get away with it. It would get called out immediately. And then she said, perhaps love is the answer. Well, I agree, love them. But loving a person is not enabling them. There's nothing loving about enabling them. There's no love in enabling somebody's mental illness. There's no love in allowing yourself to be abused or to be imposed upon so that you can satisfy somebody else's delusion. So I would say if I'm I wouldn't personally like I make content, right? So as a content creator, I might have conversations with all kinds of people, but I just think that these men should not be allowed in women's spaces. I don't know what conversation we need to have with them. They are not our mates, right? They're overwhelmingly sleeping with other men. They aren't wanting to be men, and they are not women. So I don't know why on in a social media aspect, we should be folding them in trying to figure out how we're gonna navigate around them. I would say, if anything, I would treat them like any other man. It's amazing how we talk about the lack of manhood in conversations in Black female spaces, and then at the same time, the least masculine and most derelict from manhood of all men, somehow we can make friends with them. It's like, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't make any sense. So I think we should navigate them the way we would any man that was completely derelict, which would be avoidance or honesty. Yeah, exactly, Mama Kush. Yeah. Let's see. Well, goodness, the fetishism that heterosexual men have with lesbian women is like a whole nother conversation, right? The fetishism of lesbian men, and I mean with lesbian women that men have with lesbian women, is like a totally separate conversation. I want to go to this other one. And I think I'll open up a panel for this cuz I'm interested in what you guys think. Like, what are your thoughts on this? Let me go over this last one. She said, "How to go about letting it be known I am not for their agendas and ideologies." I don't think you have to tell people you're not for their agendas and ideologies. On YouTube, on YouTube, I talk about my thoughts and opinions, but when I'm in the real world, I mean, do I talk to, my family, my friends? Yeah. But if I meet some gay man or some transgender person, am I gonna get into a deep discussion with them about my ideologies? No. First of all, I don't have anything to discuss with them. The chances of us actually getting into a full-blown discussion are gonna be very little, right? But outside of that, yeah. But that's not the only time they get psychopathic, please. That's not the only time though, right? But I don't think anybody needs to get into a whole dialogue about it. I think at the end of the day, for example, I told you, a trans Uber driver. And where I live is very like the city I live in is like small townish. And so there's only so many like drivers around here, you know? So I was really torn, but I wasn't that torn. I had to give that particular driver, you know, 1 star. Not because they did anything wrong, but because I never wanted to be paired with them again. Because I had at the time like I kid y'all not. I was coming from our church was cleaning up and laying mulch and like doing yard work at a local school. And I had my children with me. And I called an Uber to pick us up when we were done. And I get in the Uber and it's this guy, this skinny guy, clearly a man in a dress. I want to be clear that some of these people that are claiming to be transgender are not mentally ill at all. They're just nasty and on they get off on presenting themselves that way like it's a sexual thing for them to be like wearing a dress. It's a sexual thing for them to engage the public in that way, like it's a fetish for them. And so I was very upset to be with my children and have this person be a person that was sent to me. So I did have to make sure that I was never paired with that person again. That kind of proximity I'm not comfortable with. Bringing them inside of my home, I don't believe that these people should be around children. So I'm also coming from like a mother's perspective, you know? Um that is not a person I would invite to my home. So my interactions in the real world would be limited. But at the same time, I've gone to a makeup counter and a transgender person be working at the makeup counter, and I will let them bag up my stuff. I think areas that I feel less comfortable are places like restaurants, like if I'm being served food and things like that, that would actually stop me from going to a restaurant. Only because I do think like there is a level of degeneracy, a level of mental illness that in some situations it would not be appropriate, right? But I wouldn't disrespect them or anything like that. I would just, me personally, I try not to engage. It's like people who do crack. You know what I'm saying? It's like somebody that is a wife beater. It's like, a schizophrenic that's like a paranoid schizophrenic and is dangerous. It's like, you know what I'm saying? There's some people, a KKK member, like there's some people where their whole entire, whatever their lifestyle is, whatever they got going on with themselves is so the opposite of what I have going on. I just don't want to interact with them at all. There's a whole group of people like that. There's just a whole group of, I don't know, because some of them consider themselves Christian. I have to tell you. There's just a whole group of people like that. There's a whole group of people who I'm just not going to deal with at all. And I don't feel the need to express my political views or my religious views. I don't feel the need to engage them in dialogue about how they're wrong. Like, that's not my vibe. I don't care for that. I would never do that. Plus, again, you are dealing with somebody that is mentally unstable. So you have to really keep that in mind. Are you really going to like tell them, I don't care how you feel, I don't care what you think, to a crazy person? No. Not me. I'm not trying to do that. No, I mean, it's not that weird, right? Because goodness, it's the same thing on the West Coast. Seeing people in all sorts of ways and fashions is not uncommon out here. It is not uncommon at all. You know who doesn't? Trans men don't really have a trans men. Men who are transgender don't really have a problem with me as much as women who are transgender. Weirdly enough, the people who have a problem with me are women who are transgender. I've met one woman who is transgender in real life, and she did not like me. And we didn't talk about anything, but I think she could just feel the vibe off of me that I was disgusted. And she she returned that energy. I guess she said, if you're disgusted, chick, I'm disgusted too. We could just be disgusted with each other. we could just be We can just have a problem with each other. Right? Well, yeah, but if you're on the West Coast, it's unavoidable. It's unavoidable. It's like Sodom and Gomorrah out here. You can't It's unavoidable to not run into these people. It's unavoidable to not have your children run into them. Like, you have to have those conversations very early. Because we went into, I told you guys, our favorite Indian restaurant, and the hostess was not a hostess. The hostess was a host. And I was irritated because I love that Indian food. But I was mad. I was mad about that. I was like, "Oh, it's just ruining my favorite restaurant," you know? Because I don't wanna take my kids there and have to sit through a whole meal with that, you know? I don't want people's fetishes, and I mean, I know they say you should be kind to the mentally ill and all that stuff, but I don't want their fetishes and their illnesses, in proximity to my children. So, I mean, I know what I really think, but I can't say it on YouTube, so Mama Kush, I don't even want the food to go. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't even want the food to go. I don't, because you have to think. People say this doesn't matter, but I think a lot. And I'm not about to play with my food. I think a lot. Remember, remember, oh gosh, I don't want to be vulgar, but remember um in the first trans video I ever showed on this channel, I think even the last one that I showed, like where we were looking at the surgery, the gaping hole of an anus that was on that person. I think when you start reaching a level of mental illness where you are engaging in that kind of behavior, having your testicles cut off, taking hormones to grow little breasts and stuff, you're very far gone mentally. I don't want a person like that anywhere near my food. Preparing my food, serving my food, packaging my food. I don't know what you'll do. You don't even you're not even caring for yourself. So you sure as heck aren't about to care about me. And if you are really mentally far gone and you feel some kind of way about society and how you're being treated, who knows what you're doing? You know what I'm saying? Disgruntled people and mentally ill people, like, it's not, again, and I would never say be unkind to them or things like that, but I would say, "Nah, Mama Kush, I'm not taking my food to go. I don't eat there anymore." I'll tell you, I did not eat that day. You think I'm playing, y'all? I did not eat that day. I was irritated. I really didn't want to stay. Um, and I don't want to get takeout because I don't know who's handling my food. It's already kind of sketch eating at a restaurant anyway, because you're trusting strangers with your food and there's all kinds of weirdos in the world. It's already sketch. Something you guys don't know about me is for the first maybe 25 years of my life, I did not eat at restaurants. I did not eat anywhere where I could not see my food being prepared. Like, I'm not even playing. So now I do eat at restaurants, but I'm telling you, even if something looks off or I feel the energy is off, I simply won't eat my food. So I've graduated. I eat out now, but like, it's not even just the trans people, but I think about stuff like that. I think about, like, look at all the stuff that you're doing to yourself. Do I really trust you with anything that I've got going on? Probably not. You know, probably not. Lucy said, "How have you been able to recognize these trans individuals in public? Do they look like men, women dressing?" Yeah, that's exactly what they look like. And then you have the best I've seen are people that look very neutral, right? But I don't even trust those people that look very neutral. But for the most part, trans people who are men In the real world, they do not translate as feminine as they do in pictures and online. They translate like men dressing as women. Even the ones that don't look as, horrible. In the real world, they look like what they are. The ones that are more confusing are the ones that try to look gender neutral. But even then, even like at first glance, if you're not sure, once you have more than a cursory glance at them, you can tell if they're male or female. I haven't had a whole lot of confusion, but you know what they say, you don't know what you don't know. So it's possible somebody totally pulled the wool over my eyes. I don't know. But for the most part, I really don't think so. Uh, you know what else, goodness, is I don't know why men don't. I mean, some men do, but I don't know why most men don't wipe off the tip of their penis. I really think like if men were more sanitary, I'll just keep it real, men, honestly, they shake it off and they put it back in their pants, but pee still comes out of your shaft, men. Pee still comes out of your shaft after you shake it off. So if men were sanitary, they would take some tissue, they would dab the tip of their penis and maybe just squeeze it a little bit to get the little drops that are left out, that are in the shaft. And I'm not making this up because that's what pre-cum is for. That is what pre-cum's for. Pre-cum is to clear urine and semen out of the shaft of the penis before. The fact that men come and pee out of the same hole just never ceases to gross me out. But nevertheless, I, I mean, God made us all glorious, but I think he made women a little bit better. That's just crazy to me. But anyway, that's a side note. I just think, like, seriously, they should really do that, y'all. They should really, dab, squeeze, dab some more versus putting your penis back in your underwear where a little drop of pee is going to get on your underwear. It's just, very nasty. Very, 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 very nasty. But it's not, it's not, look, it's not your fault that you guys have only one one little hole there, one little tube. It's just one tube for an all-purpose tube. That is horrible. Well, if men were self-reporting, I think more than 40% of men don't wash their hands. But honestly, a lot of women don't wash their hands. And I see y'all in the bathroom, coming out of the toilet, pretend washing your hands so you're not the person that's not washing their hands, but you don't give it a good wash. You don't give it that little 15, 30 seconds that it needs to get clean. Women are not out here doing that either. They definitely are not. Yeah, that's what I was saying. 40%, I think it's a little higher than that. I mean, if you're shaking and flipping your pee droplets all over the place, you're not washing your hands. I wish men had different protocol for the bathroom. I can't lie. I wish they had different protocol. What, Jay? Come on. A shake off is not efficient enough. Goodness. This is what I'm talking about. Oh, they had a bathroom watcher? That's weird. But good. Goodness. Anyway, y'all, I just wanted to come on here and address those 3 comments. Like I said, I will just send this to my unlisted playlist. It was just a little chit chat. Yeah, a little 5 seconds of water running. That's what people really do. I want to know, goodness, the bathroom watcher who watched the bathrooms. How long were the people washing their hands on average? That's what I want to know. Mm-mm. Yeah, because you don't know how people are nasty. People are nasty. People are nasty. Overwhelmingly. Overwhelmingly nasty. I truly believe that. Anyway, it's not trust issues. People are nasty. They really, really are. What's wrong with you, Baby Shack? Anyway, you guys, I just wanted to come and chit chat with you guys a little bit. I thought for sure y'all were going to come up here and have an opinion on this, but because three people basically, like within a short time span, brought up this particular question or these groups of questions that kind of all fit together, I figured I would do the live because we don't talk about this. We always talk about like what we don't approve of, what we're socially or politically against. But what we don't talk about is how to navigate these situations with these people when you have to engage them in the real world. And also, just to keep it 1,000, if you're in a very liberal place, that could cost a person their job. What if you're working with one of these people, right? What if you have to engage them? Isn't that what happened with the swim team? You know? And it can be all the more, daunting because I know everybody's not Christian, but believe it or not, I think I mentioned this in one of my lives really recently, like in the past 2 months. I had this conversation with um the women's group at my church. And everybody was so relieved that we were talking about it. You got to think this is a church. Our church is not affirming. We don't have an affirming church. You know what I'm saying? And even in the church, people weren't having the discussion. So you know that it's wrong. All we're telling each other is just to love them, show them Christ's love and all this. And I mean, yeah, nobody's going to beat up or, be cruel to a transgender person. But like at the same time, we do have to have conversations about how do we navigate these people? Because we cannot placate to something that is not true to us. Whether you are Christian, whether you're not Christian, like none of that matters if politically you're against it, if morally you're against it, if whatever. If you think it's against nature, if it's against your religion, if you're Muslim, if you're Jewish, if you're Christian, like whatever the case is, right? We don't talk about how to navigate these situations. We don't talk about how to deal with these people. We don't have that conversation. And I think as women, because the ones causing the most trouble are the men, there are far more men that want to be women than there are women that want to be men. It really becomes a dicey situation for us because not only is this person a man, right? But this is now a person that is a man that is being protected over and above you as a woman. And there's no social situation with any healthy minded individuals where there could be women and children. And if there is an issue, everybody's going to go, okay, well, protect the man, throw the women and children into the fire. But that's exactly what's happened with women's restrooms, with women's sports. Even on YouTube, we can't even have conversations just with women. You have women worried about being verbally attacked, called transphobic, losing their jobs, sharing bathrooms, locker rooms, right? Women's spaces with men. And it's only in those social situations. Honestly, even the feminists have always wanted to be equal to men. Even they had to double back on this. Because what they realized is that no, we want to be different and separate from men. The feminists are eating their own words. They called for this equality And now it's gotten a little too equal for them. Now the men, it's gotten so equal, the men have become women. It's gotten so equal. There's no division at all. It's back to being unfair again. Anyway, so that is my commentary on what the ladies were asking. I responded to the one sister. Who was it? I think it was the younger sister in her 20s. I responded to her and I was like, oh, girl, I made a video pretty much on this. And she emailed me back and she was like, with all due respect, your video really didn't answer my question. She said, you really did not answer anything I asked about, Irene. It's really what she told me. So she's like, so she explicitly said, so can you make a video? Can you make a video about this? Right. So when she called me out and said I didn't really answer her question, I figured I might as well make the video. So hopefully that will answer her question and also the other sister's question as well. And I would just encourage Black women to not be the weakest link. Don't be on here, in these social media streets hating on heterosexual men while at the same time covering, protecting, coveting, and throwing on your cape for a man as soon as he puts on a dress. Don't be out here in these social media streets talking about, Black men aren't manly, Black men aren't living up to their duties as men. But the minute a Black man completely abandons his manhood, all of a sudden he's cool, he's a friend of women. Like, that's a kind of insanity. You know what I'm saying? It's a little bit crazy to in one breath say that you despise a lack of masculinity, manhood, and proper male behavior in men, and then out of the same mouth completely throw on a cape for a man that it has absolutely no manhood whatsoever. You know? Like, I promise you, I try to comprehend and understand how that works in some women's minds. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm trying. It's like Black women shouldn't be, defending and fighting men's battles. But the minute that Black man puts on a dress or starts taking some D up the butt, all of a sudden we're defending and fighting his battles. Like, is the threshold really that the only men that Black women, you know what I'm saying, can protect are men that are taking D up the butt and wearing dresses? I mean, I don't understand. It's like, why does the rule stop applying to the men once they become gay or transgender? Why do none of the criteria of manhood qualify for them once they become gay or transgender? Why do they now become exempt from all of the things that we say about men in social media streets the minute they put on a dress and start sleeping with other guys? No, not a fetus, goodness. Goodness said it's something like a kind of fetus. Your autocorrect got you. Fetish. You mean fetish. Not a fetus. It's not the fetus. But yeah. Anyway. So I just think, we have to be consistent. You don't know. Meet your inner misogynist. You know what I mean? Go check your inner misogynist, ladies, because it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. It's very twisted logic. So on some level, you must approve of female behavior in men because the only men that you like act like women. So, you know what I'm saying? Sexually position themselves like women, dress like women. So you got to really think about that. It's like, and I guess that was the whole situation, like the Hope situation. All the women that were saying Hope spoke the truth and Hope spoke the truth. And I was like, Hope is exactly like those men. How is completely even not even wanting to be a black man any different than all these complaints you're making about other black men? It just doesn't make any sense. That's why in my video, Are Black Women the Weakest Link? I said that's why that gay man had the audacity to make a whole video about how black women need to be correcting black men who are homophobic. It's like he was literally giving a call to arms on the internet with hundreds of black women cheering him on. I was like, they were deep in his chat, deep in his comment section, ready to take up arms for this man, all because he takes some D up the butt. But if a heterosexual man did a call to arms for black women to petition his cause, there would have been 8,000 videos made about it. Just think about it. Go watch that video, Are Black Women the Weakest Link? Go watch the video, Are Black Women the Weakest Link? Because that video says it all. You know, black women don't want to be told what to do, but let a gay or trans person tell you what to do, tell you how to think. That's totally okay. And dare anybody to tell you different. Dare anybody to tell you different. There is a troop of black women ready to cut their necks off, chop your head off because you said anything different about them. That is when you know that, like, the misogyny is deep. The mind control is deep. When a man can be all the things that you say you don't want men to be, and then more, he goes even deeper off the cliff. And it is at that point that you feel the most loyal and protective toward him. That is insane. Anyway, I'm going to shake the spot. I'm going to just stick this on the unlisted playlist because it was just a little chit chat with you guys. And I will talk to you guys later.